Good day, fellas. I hope you're ready for your daily dose of skill, and today we are going to take a look into the Bone Store tanks. We are going to refresh our knowledge. Lately, I've been playing with pretty much most of the tier 8s to remember what do I think about the tanks and is it worth it to get or not so much. And for a future, we are going to refresh videos with every and each vehicle individually, including lower tiers. That being said, why we are looking at this, yesterday we had an article that Wargaming added new tanks into the Bone Store, so I am instantly refreshing the video for this for newer players and for experienced players who are packing quite a bit of the Bone. So first of all, how do you access the store? You are clicking into the store, you are clicking the last option which is over there, Bones, and you can see gazillion of the vehicles that you can select and that you can play with. Some of them are better than others, some of them are worth it, and some of them are not. And this is very important thing to highlight, right? So let's start everything from the M60. M60, in my humble opinion, is pretty good tier 10. It is to the certain level Leopard glass cannon. It has extremely accurate gun, 350 millimeter hits, and the tank overall is nice. It's one of the better tier 10 choices. Same thing we can say with the 121B. It is pretty decent vehicle. It has actually good high explosive ammunition, so you can eliminate the paper vehicles without bigger problems whatsoever, and overall you have a bit of the armor. So for example, if let's say you are considering for a medium tank and you are thinking either M60, either 121B, probably for most of the people it would be 121B as a choice, right? Although you have a low gun depression, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6, so it can be a rough thing, but overall the tank is fine, and I definitely would recommend to get this from the Bone Store. Moving on next for 215B. With all honesty, I think this tank is a stinky pooper. I don't really think anyone should waste their hard-earned bones on this. It's just not a good tank. This vehicle has one selling point. It is gun. But Super Conqueror can do the same thing. So why would you play with this? I think it is literally irrelevant. Moving on next, 113 Bo. Now this is an interesting one, because 113, I don't think it's the best tank in the world of tanks. It's somewhere average or 3.5 in my opinion. But the thing is, why would you buy this tank whenever you can go to the tech tree, whenever you can click on the Chinese tanks and click the Chinese collector vehicles, and you can get the same 113 tank over there? It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you pay bones for copy-pasted vehicle? In my humble opinion, definitely not worth it. I would not even consider this. After that, we have Object 268 version 5. It is a tank destroyer which has a turret, 750 alpha damage, and overall the tank destroyer is, let's say, average, right? It has its own selling point for sure, but it wouldn't be my priority choice, and I would not say, oh my bananas, you need to get 268 version 5, because I don't really think you do, right? Meanwhile, we have a Foch 155. In my opinion, this tank is only meme, right? It even has a name, 750 DPM, because usually you are going to miss 2 from the magazine and you will hit 1. Definitely you need to spam the gold with this vehicle, and you need to be quite close because gun is quite unreliable and overall only for meme purposes. But is it worth your bones? I don't really think so. You want to get a meme tank and more competitive, take the Foch B. And Foch B lately has been re-rated, and the tank is actually pretty solid. It's rated like 3 or 3.5 if I remember this correctly. Meanwhile, we have a new addition to the store for 215B or 1A3, or as many people in the community call it, Death Star. The tank selling point is literally to ruin someone's day, and it doesn't really matter is it going to be your day or is it going to be someone else's day, right? You have ability to one-shot the enemies, that's great, but other than that you do not really have anything, right? So for meme purposes, significantly better than Foch 155 in my opinion, but in the same time far away from being the best tank in the game. Moving on next was the 114. It is a tier 9 premium Chinese heavy tank. It takes decades to aim with it, and it doesn't feel great in the tier 9 standards. As a matter of fact, probably we have plenty of the folks that would say it is one of the worst tier 9 vehicles in the game. Armor-wise, it is okay. I would never blame it for it. The alpha damage-wise, over 500, 560, if I remember this correctly. It is also kind of fine, but man, it takes decades to aim. And Wargaming isn't wrong by saying it has an accurate gun and sturdy frontal armor. It is. But in order to have accuracy of this tank, you need to wait a decade. You can feel how your hair will become white while you are aiming, right? Meanwhile, we have 3 light tanks. We have a Chinese Bulldog, German Bulldog, and Senlac. German Bulldog selling point is very, very simple. It is not a good spotter, okay? As a matter of fact, speaking about the tier 8 spotters, none of the tanks are excellent because ELC even exists. So this tank is not good at spotting. But what this tank is good at, if you are a lover of the high explosive ammunition, and if you know how to use intuition perk, if you know when to shoot standards, hits, or high explosives, this tank is going to be very, very nice for you. But you need to have this knowledge, so keep this in mind. Not an easy mother trucker to make it work. Meanwhile, we have a Shitluck, very similar situation like a Black Dog, same has a very good high explosive ammunition, just a little bit worse than Black Dog, but in my opinion, it's still okay. But it has lower DPM, if I remember this correctly, right? But on the other hand, it has better spotting abilities. So, you know, if you are into the spotting and you are looking for a tank and you are considering between those two, Senlac is better. But if you are talking about the damage, then Black Dog is better. Also, we have a Chinese Bulldog, which is very similar to the Tech 3 American Bulldog. I don't really think it is excellent tank. It is a weird one. Low alpha damage, quite bad high explosives, but you are hitting shots on the move by setting auto aim. Is it what you are looking for? You tell me. But overall, I would say this is most likely the worst pick of those 3 vehicles for my liking and for my style. Now, we are going to take a look into the medium tanks. We have 8 medium tanks overall. Let's start from the Schmutz. Panzer Mutz has the 3 versions. So Schmutz, Black Mutz, Standard Mutz, pretty crazy, right? To think about. The tank can have 3 versions in the game, right? Whenever it came into the game, it was a time whenever CDCs were roaming the fields and whenever CDC was a meta tank. So at that point in time, Schmutz was quite a decent vehicle and everything was completely fine. Nowadays, on the other hand, it is far away from that. I would say Schmutz is either average or either below average where the tank goes, so I most likely wouldn't recommend to get this vehicle. Now, other tank is Guard. Guard is actually very, very nice, and I think many people do not appreciate this tank as much as it should be appreciated. It has a nice combination of the things. You can have a spotting build and you can be a decent spotter and you can be a decent sniper as well whenever you are with a sniper build. So you have a choice. Open map, you spot. Close map, you are doing the 390 alpha damage and you can snipe and you can even play more aggressive against the lower tier vehicles. Sure, tank shape and form is making it not the most comfortable tank to brawl with. I 100% agree with that, but overall, it is still okay tank, and I would definitely recommend if you are looking for medium sniper schnitzel / spotter. Moving on, next we have a Patton Care. Patton Care is absolutely depreciated pile of kaku in my opinion, even though I love the tank and soon we are going to have a video with this vehicle. I still do not think that the vehicle is worth picking up. It is definitely below average as a vehicle, and I would say even Schmutz is better. Sure, you can play hull down, you can use your 240 alpha damage, but once again, it's not a meta tank, it's not a good vehicle, don't waste your bones on it. Lorraine 40T is a French autoloader tank, pretty quick, and it has magazine. You can do 1200 from the magazine, which sounds good. And it used to be meta tank back in the day whenever it came back to the game as a premium tank, because at first Lorraine was a tier 9 and after that Lorraine came back as a tier 8 premium tank, right? not everything is ideal about the tank because how difficult it is to play with the tank. It gets a top rating of the difficulty, right? Think about it. You are a fast tank, which is good. You are big tank, fat tank, humongous tank, right? And you have no armor. So every and each mother trucker will try to slap you with high explosives and overall just to slap the living crap out of you. Also, I really want to highlight that the gun handling of this tank isn't ideal, right? So that means you kind of want to shoot as many APCRs as you physically and possibly can just to make your every and each shell count. You know, for autoloaders, it's very, very important. And Lorraine can be very good for a very good player or excellent player, but to this game meta, I don't think that it is the tank worth picking. I would say whenever we are going to rate it, it's going to end up somewhere between 3 or 3.5 average category, although still some people can play with it. But once again, there is better tanks. There is Borats, there is Projetos, and there is even the same Samoa, which is slower than Lorraine, but you have armor and you have extra shell in the magazine. So yeah, Chieftain T95, absolutely disgusting tank. Don't even think about picking it up. And even though people are looking into the Chieftain as, oh, Chieftain must be good. No. This is far away from being great. 230 alpha damage, definitely unreliable armor, humongous pimple on top of the head. Not a good tank. Don't take it. It's just a stinker. T-34-3. This is a different version in a way of the Guard or of 122 TM. This tank doesn't have the best gun handling, but this tank is supposed to be played in a way in the heavy line as a support, right? You are not the first one who is taking one for the team, but you are trying to support the heavy tanks with a big alpha damage and aiming towards the medium and closer range combat, right? Overall, a decent tank. It has a pref matchmaking, and everything is completely fine with it. Plus, on top of that, it's burning, but it's not really a good feature, right? Overall, it's okay tank. I would say it's around 3 to 3.5. In my opinion, Guard is better, but it has a different playstyle. Meanwhile, 122 TM, one of the new additions of the game, or into the game, into the Bond store, I suppose to say, sorry. It has, for a medium tank standards, it is slow and it has garbage DPM. Let's be honest here. To reload 13 seconds for 400 alpha or 390 alpha, it is ridiculous. But the combination of the things is just right on this tank. You have a nice armor, you have a nice turret armor, even with a cupolas, and your gun is a laser, at least in my opinion. If you do not know how to play with low DPM tanks, the better choice for you would be T-34 or Guard, but if you don't mind the low DPM, this tank is very, very, very beautiful and decent tank overall. I lately played with it, I tested it out how it feels in the current meta, and I found myself enjoying. Well, I do not love this tank, but I understand the features of this vehicle and what it's supposed to do, right? Meanwhile, Strv 81, I cannot say anything good about this vehicle. Avoid, don't even look at it. It's like a Chieftain T95. Both of them are absolutely stinkers, honestly. Also, for some people who do not know, Strv 81 is pretty much a clone of the Primo Victoria, but with a bit different crew loadout, or layout, I suppose to say, but it's just simply not a great tank. It's not worth it, you know? 230 alpha damage or 240 alpha damage, kind of stinker. You're supposed to play a hull down with it. I mean, it's just simply outdated. It needs to get some love in order to say something nice about this vehicle. Now, heavy tank turns. We have 10 heavy tanks. Okay, let's start from almighty IS-6. In my opinion, IS-6 is, once again, kind of outdated tank. Not really great vehicle unless you are seeing the tier 6 matchmaking, then you can play relatively aggressively and then you can, you know, have some fun. But whenever you are playing against the tier 8s, it feels like you are a tier 7.5, if not tier 7, trying to play against the tier 8s. Only one saving grace of this tank, in my opinion, is armor. That's all there is to say. Meanwhile, Defender is still still great to this day, and as a matter of fact, I would say from all of those tanks which you have seen today and which you will see today, Defender is the most beginner-friendly tank, at least in my opinion. The biggest selling point of the Defender is armor, very, very, very beautiful armor, but the gun is kind of a stinker, to be fair with you. The gun handling is kind of kaku, so people, whenever some people are playing with a Defender, they're get rid of their armor and they're running, let's say, hardering, stabilizer, improved aiming unit, or hardering, stabilizer, ventilation, or something like this, just to make the tank more accurate and to boost the gun handling. But overall, very forgiving tank. You can make mistakes and you won't get punished for that, even if you're showing the sight for the enemies. You will see some situations that almighty Jack Panzer is shooting you and not penetrating you, which is ridiculous. Cover 5. A lot of folks are looking into this tank as a meme vehicle. I don't see the meme of this tank apart ramming, right? The tank is far away from being good, in my opinion. In the best case scenario, most likely it's average or tiny touch above average. It has a huge booba in front, right, which you are going to get hit. And if you are playing with this tank, you want to be seen and you want others to abuse your shapes and forms. Let's put that in this way. Definitely not ideal tank. Sure, you can play aggressively. Sure, against the lower tier matchmaking, you can feel pretty good. But think about this: the gold penetration of this vehicle is like 212 or 220, something ridiculous like this. You met Defender and Defender slapped you like there is no tomorrow. It's just how it goes. So Cover 5, in my opinion, is a bad meme. IS-5 lately got buffed, and I played quite a bit of the games with this tank. I played 5 games to remember how it feels like, and it actually feels above average tank, honestly speaking. The gun handling felt pretty fine. I would say better than Defender, better than IS-6. It definitely felt okay, and the tank felt fine, honestly. I would recommend IS-5 as a vehicle to take from all of this instead of taking, let's say, IS-6, Cover 5, Patriot, or Alpine Tiger. Right? It is actually okay tank. I'm surprised. And if you have the bad taste in the mouth from the IS-5, my friends, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please, give it a go, right? If you have IS-5 lurking in your garage, it's not that bad as you remember, trust me. Meanwhile, Cover 4 Kreslevsky a Tier 8 Soviet heavy tank. Pretty much it is created, it has only one selling point in my humble opinion, which is gun. It has a very nice penetration with a 280 or 290 penetration APCRs. That's great, and you can actually hit your shots, right? So that's good. But other than that, armor-wise, it's far away from being ideal, and I would feel like even IS-6 or IS-5 works, obviously Defender works better armor-wise than Cover 4 Kreslevsky, but the gun is a selling point, you know. The PM gun, you can do some nasty things for the enemies. Not a bad tank. I would consider it if that's what I would be looking for, although low alpha damage. The new addition into the Bone Store, Yoch tank or M4I. This is quite an interesting vehicle, to be fair with you. I think it is going to end up, whenever we are going to be rating this tank, somewhere in 3 to 3.5 mark, which is pretty average for a tier 8 heavy tank. The gun felt okay, but not so much, because you are missing, but sometimes you are hitting everything. The armor felt quite weird as well. You can side scrap, but you have cupola, plus on top of that, I mean, it's weird tank, okay? Let's put that in this way. It is very, very, very weird vehicle. You want to be somewhere in front, and you want to obviously use quite a bit of your armor, but I found that I was struggling to play with this tank, and I think there are better vehicles. But overall, not horrible tank, definitely. I would never say don't buy this vehicle, because you will hate it. Meanwhile, Chrysler GF, whenever Chrysler GF came into the game, it was called overpowered tank for a very good reason, that it has no frontal weak spots. Even though you have a driving ports, you cannot penetrate this vehicle over there. So pretty much the selling point of this vehicle is armor, especially against the lower tiers. You can go like a special mother trucker, blah, 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 through the middle of the field and you can have a great time in the lower tier, right? Especially when side scrapping and whatnot. But on the other hand, whenever you are meeting tier 10 and tier 10 is tapping that 2 key, you are going to get effed. Also, extremely important thing to highlight that this tank is requiring quite a bit of the gold ammunition overall to be played with. And gold ammunition dependence is very high on this tank if you want to be successful. It's not a bad tank, definitely friendly for beginner in my opinion, not a bad purchase. Meanwhile, Patriot, Patriot. Fellas, I think Patriot days are over. I don't think that Patriot is a great tank nowadays. I think it is extremely difficult tank to play with. I think it has very, very low alpha damage for a heavy tank, and it's just pain in the ass to play with this tank. I'm going to be honest with you. Some time ago, let's say 3-4 months ago, I was playing with this tank for marks or something, and I cannot remember when I had such a big pain in the ass playing with a tank, honestly. Unpopular opinion from my side, I don't think this tank is worth to pick up nowadays from the Bond store. There are better tanks out there, okay? I can promise you that I would rather play the same IS-6, Defender, the same KV-5, definitely IS-4, KV-4 Kreslevsky, Foch, Chrysler, Liberty. I did not felt like this vehicle is good nowadays, okay? On the other hand, not everything is that bad. The ammunition cost very cheaply with this vehicle, so that is a selling point. You can print credits with it, right? But it's just difficult to play with. The whole point is to get hull down and to try to find enemies that are making silly goose mistakes and slap them with your 240 alpha damage darts, right? If I can say something, I think Patriot should get both alpha damage wise. Give Patriot 280 to 300 alpha damage and this vehicle will reborn once again. I do not recommend to take it now, even though profitability is quite decent. Liberty, unpopular opinion from my side, I would say Liberty is kind of underrated vehicle nowadays. The frontal armor of the Liberty is decent enough. Sure, you have a pimple on top of the head, but not even as close to have a pimple as your tank does, or the Buba as KV-5 does, right? And the armor and combination of the things of Liberty just simply works. I just simply think that it is underrated vehicle nowadays. I truly do. Once again, good combination of the things, decent speed for a heavy tank, okay gun, okay armor. You don't need to consider side scrapping because you can bait enemies by peeking front first, obviously without showing your track. Overall, all in all, fine tank and quite beginner friendly as well. I would recommend to pick up Liberty. Alpine Tiger, absolutely pile of kaku, do not recommend. I would not even look to the other direction. Only one thing what is good about this tank, it is how pretty the tank is. But what's from that if the tank is pretty but there is nothing else, right? A horrible vehicle, do not recommend, it's stinker. Trash 103. This one is controversial. Some people love it, some people hate it. For me, I look into this tank somewhere towards the average category. Against the lower tiers, you can be very much aggressive and you can slap the living crap out of the enemies. The gun handling isn't the finest of this tank, but it has good penetration, so you can make a lot of credits, but it's just ugly tank to play with, if you know what I mean. Neither you are a sniper schnitzel, nor you are the front line warrior, right? It's tricky tank to play with, but overall it is okay if you would master it. How to master it? Well, that is a different question, right? You need to know when to push and when to snipe with a tank. Overall, not horrible, but I think there are better choices. Although, once again, profitability is very, very high up just because you have a great penetration and you will shred any of those tanks frontally without bigger problems whatsoever. Moving on next, Type 62. Now, this is the moment whenever I need to highlight one thing. The best money makers in the game are tier 8s. Don't look into any of the lower tiers to say, oh my bananas, I'm going to make so much credits and I'm going to be so happy about this. No, absolutely not. It is not the right way to do the things, in my opinion, right? Unless you cannot stand higher tiers and you are lower tier lover, then I understand that, right? Or you are playing mid tier, tier 5, tier 6, tier 7, whatever. Other than that, it's just don't even consider any of those tanks. That being said, Type 62, in my opinion, is kind of average light tank overall. The DPM is fine of this tank. Whenever you're shooting high explosives, you are shredding other light tanks and whatever you can penetrate, that's great, but it's typical light tank with a bit of the derpy gun handling. T23 Echo 3, completely outdated pile of caco, in my opinion. It wants to be different version of the T20, but basically it is stock T20, right? Not a good tank. I would not recommend to take it. Not a good vehicle. IS-2S, it's okay. Your typical IS tank, IS-2S, IS-2M, IS-2 whatever else, right? Typical your tier 7 IS tank. You are not losing anything by not having this tank. Just grind the USSR line and you will have the same vehicle pretty much. Panzer 4S, not a great tank, just a stinker in the tier 6. That's all there is to say. Honestly, don't even look at it. Tiger 131 is okay. Tier 6 vehicle, not a bad tank by any shape or any form, but not great. Once again, it's just simply not really worth to take anything lower tier where the credits goes. But for a tier 6, it can work. Typically, you have a tank, not too much armor, okay, alpha damage. It's okay. TOG. People are calling it a good meme. For me, this vehicle is not a meme. It's a joke. You are going like a bloody snail, 15 kilometers per hour speed or whatever that is, and you are getting farmed, literally. Sure, you can use your hit points pool to push in front, hip hip hooray, but for me personally, this is absolutely a pile of caco. I don't see why people would love this tank unless they want to play, let's say, low effort gameplay whenever you are just simply relaxing and absorbing the views of the buildings or of the trees. Su-100i, far away from being ideal tank, but some people love it. It is, some people would call this a tier 6 fava, right? You have extremely good alpha damage for tier 6, but everything else sucks, literally. Plus, on top of that, gold ammunition has more alpha damage but less penetration. 560 if I remember this correctly. Overall, quite a weird vehicle to play with. I understand why some people would enjoy it. I'm not one of the folks who would have a great time playing with it. I just simply don't like it and I do not recommend for anyone. Sniper, and usually people are playing aggressively with this tank and they're instantly cutting the tier 6 by, let's say, 2/3 or by a half, depending on how many alpha damage how much hit points tank has. Panzer 4 Hydrostrat, literally useless, typical tier 5 shitter, don't take it. Same goes for T34S. The standard T34 is live. This tank is just simply average or below average where the shitter goes. Nothing too crazy, nothing to miss. And M10 RBFM, one of the better tier 5s in the game. Probably would be great for a lower tier lover and player. Honestly, popular tank, good tank, everything is completely fine with it. There is nothing to cry about. If you are lower tier lover, once again, you could consider this. We are not done yet. I want to highlight one more thing, fellas. There is Onslaught store, and I want to showcase and to highlight some tanks from the Onslaught store as well, right? It is definitely important thing. So the first things first, Skoda T45. Some people ask for me about this vehicle. I don't think that this vehicle is a great tank, or yes, you need to own it. Nothing too crazy for a tier 7, maybe average or tiny touch above average, but overall, nothing too crazy and nothing unusual. Don't even consider this tank in my opinion. Now, Panzer 50T, one of the best tier 9s in the game, highly recommend. I think every and each person should consider getting one. I think it's great. A combination of the things is just right. Although, keep this in mind, this is a weak spot, right? And for weak spots, keep this in mind, you can always check out the index page as well, right? Overall, good combination of the things, good gun, good speed, everything is fine with it. Same goes for Concept 1B. Extremely good tank. Nothing to complain about, nothing to cry about, just a great vehicle as a whole overall, right? Arguably, those tanks are the best tier 9 vehicles in the game, right? So please keep this in mind. This is a very strong. Plus on top of that, pretty much good players are being awarded with those, right? And we have 2 more tanks left. Charlemagne, waste of the time, waste of the resources, waste of the bonds. Don't buy it. The overall, it is around the average, maybe tiny touch above average, but this tank is unplayable with the standard ammunition just because the shell velocity is 590 something. It's very slow, and whenever you are loading gold, you have 900 shell velocity, which is okay. Alpha damage is fine, but it's just not a good heavy tank. It doesn't have good combination of the things, and you may say skill, but it has very high expectation values. Indeed, it does, because all people who got this tank, they got it either from the Onslaught or either they earned it somehow otherwise. I think that was Onslaught tank, honestly. Definitely not recommending this one, even though it is kind of okay-ish if you know what you are doing. And 114 SP. I never loved this tank, my friends, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I never loved this vehicle, but I understand that some people are looking into this as a different version of the SBV we just entered the game. I struggle to play with this tank aggressively. I struggle to snipe with this tank. For me, it is a struggle. Overall, it is not a it is not a bad tank. Let's begin. Let's start from that. But I would rather play with Grilla or SBV or something else, right? It's just not my vehicle. Would I understand why would you buy it, and would I judge you for that? No. It's probably above average as a tank goes, right? It's more likely above average. That's all there is to say. So, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I tried to talk as quickly as I physically and possibly could. I haven't had a single moment to get a breather. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope I gave you a lot of information, and I hope I gave you a good suggestion what to buy, what not to buy, and what to take from all of this. Love you all. Thank you very much for watching, and see you very soon. I'm out for today. Peace.